All right. Good evening. We are recording, and this is the fifth session of Klein Artist Works 21. And this is where we talk about how to get a gallery. Now, I think this is not how most of you think you go about doing this. And this is an extension of everything else. And I don't find that the art world is particularly different than the rest of the world in society. And I think the way one grows a relationship with a gallery is the same way that one grows a relationship with another human being. And I don't think it comes as a result of applying. Hello, Mary, I'd like to be your friend. Here's my resume. Well, can I be your friend, please? I'm not convinced that's quite how it works. I think it works more like, hey, nice haircut. Why, thank you. Maybe we could have coffee sometime. Okay, I guess so. You know, let's see if we have anything in common. Oh, you like cats? I used to have a cat. You know, I think that's how it goes. It goes really slowly. And I think that there are lots of ways of growing relationships. And I think you can extrapolate from the relationships you have in your life to how you would go about growing a relationship with a gallery. Let's talk about those. One is the way you guys think you do it already, which is you send in your images or you show up with your images and you say, here I am, I'm wonderful, I hope you like my stuff. If you like my stuff, I'll be happy forevermore. That can work. I don't think it has a high percentage of success. You know, previously we've mentioned a little bit about the difference between galleries or between a dealer and a gallerist. And a dealer is a person who wants to maximize the sale, the singular event. And a gallerist is someone who is interested in your career and the big picture. Take a look at the difference. If you are submitting your artwork for judgment, it's kind of like you're not dealing with the career, you're dealing with what's going on at the moment. And if somebody likes what you're doing at the moment, they may not like what you're doing later. I mean, with intelligence, they'll try and extrapolate. I certainly would, from where you've been to where you are going. But if I really like the person and I want a relationship with you, the artist, and the person because I believe in your bigger vision and not just a transitory notion of what you're doing at the moment, it has a bigger commitment. And I'm more involved in what your art is about as opposed to what's going on at the moment. And if, like Clyde, perhaps, you changed from doing art that was then to doing art that is there, maybe the gallery loses interest because they identified with your art in the first place and not so much anymore. Whereas if they really identified with you and enjoyed the relationship with you and you shifted gears somewhat, they'd probably still love you. Okay, so one way to go about growing a relationship or creating a relationship with a gallery is submitting your images and saying, you know, like galleries have an open call or something like that, and then you submit your images and they find somebody that they like. Frequently, when I had a gallery, I would look at art over the, always, and I would do a group show frequently in August to see how I felt about the work. I mean, sometimes galleries would say, I'm doing this to see how my audience feels about it because they don't have that much confidence in their own taste. I did. So I would, but sometimes my opinions would change. So I would want to hang the work and see how it felt. Okay, so think about the ways that you grow a relationship now. I mean, if you want, one thing is like a blind date. A blind date is kind of, but we can extrapolate. If you know someone that already has a relationship with the gallery, that person is an appropriate person to make an introduction. Galleries cannot look at all work and still conduct enough business to stay afloat. They therefore have to be, the input is kind of vetted. Vetted means that they're listening to somebody whose opinion they trust. So they will say to artists, you know, look at Jane's work. It's kind of interesting. Do you like Jane? Or better yet, 3 artists will say, hey, dealer, we've been really liking Jane. Or independently, they'll say, I've been really having a correspondence with Jane, or I've been looking at Jane's work. It's really cool. You ought to check it out. If 3 people say that to an art gallery, that person is totally interested in Jane's work. If one person says it, and the right person in the right mind, they might be genuinely interested in taking a look at it. You know, if Picasso said, hey, take a look at Jane, you're going to, right? Various galleries obviously feel that way about their artists. I think it's important to grow your existing relationships. And if you have friends with people who are showing in galleries that you respect and you think they might be appropriate, it would not be a mistake for you to say to the artist, hey, could you, if you believe in me, or I hope you believe in me, could you mention me to your gallery? I'd really appreciate it. I'm really impressed when an artist recommends another artist. That is an act of selflessness that I really respond to. So that if Bill says, hey, Paul, check out Jane, I'll probably check out Jane, but I'm pretty impressed that Bill went to bat for another artist, and Bill has gone up in my estimation. I think it's important, you know, these things come from, I think, lots of different kinds of angles. I think you have to know, I mean, like, when I had a gallery, I had a specific aesthetic. If somebody brought me work that didn't fit my aesthetic, I felt like they were wasting their time. I was kind of annoyed. I guess it doesn't really hurt anything, but I think you should do a little bit of homework and see that, you know, there's a decent shot that your work is appropriate for the gallery that you're trying to grow a relationship with. I think it's okay to grow relationships with people, galleries with whom you might not end up exhibiting. You know, there are plenty of artists I like, and I could say, hey, I really like your work. It's not appropriate for me, but, you know, there's this other gallery down the way. Why don't I give them a call? I think they might benefit from having a relationship with you. I'll see if they want to do it. You know, I could make that call with somebody I like. So I think it's important to be sincere with relationships. I think you can try to grow a relationship with Gallery Joe. And if Gallery Joe, it happens to be a real gallery. If Gallery Joe says, hey, we're not interested, you know, you can, but I like you, you know, you can always go and say to somebody else, Joe recommended me. Joe said I should come talk to you. You know, I think it's, again, the continuity of how relationships grow through connections and who you know. To a large extent, this is an aside, but what you can accomplish in the art world is not who you know, it's who you can get to. So it's who do you know who knows somebody? And then how do you go about having a communication, a correspondence with them where you can approach equality, where you can be equals and peers. I think the best way to grow a relationship with a gallery is slowly and personably, and I don't think it matters if you're in town or out of town. I think it's a question of going slowly and looking for common interest. I think it's really important to distinguish yourself from other artists. Other artists are walking in and saying, here I am, my work is great, look at me, I'm going to solve whatever problems you didn't even know you had. That's what all artists tend to do. You can distinguish yourself by saying to the gallery, it doesn't matter if they're, you know, in town or out of town, you can do the same thing. Wow, what a nice gallery you are. What a good job you're doing. Your artists must be really pleased to work with you. I really like your aesthetic. You're contributing to culture. You're making a difference for people in this community and elsewhere. I'm really privileged to be able to walk in the door. Thank you. Could you put me on your mailing list? I'd like to pay attention. By the way, here's an image of mine, so you know what I'm up to. Hope you're well. Bye-bye. then they write you and go, hey, Sam, that was really nice. Or they don't write you and they put you on the mailing list. All right, so I have, I don't believe in this 4 steps to do this and 7 steps to do that and 297 steps to accomplish that thing. But I do have steps and a drill that if you follow will work. Here's how it goes. Create a list of galleries with whom you would be interested in having a relationship. I'll explain how you grow the list later. If I don't, remind me. Write to 2 new galleries every week. Follow up with those galleries once a month. The first letter, it's the same. I'm going to talk about galleries out of town, and you can extrapolate to a local gallery. Or maybe I'll explain it. But the first email, basically, it says what I said. Your gallery is really wonderful. I saw it online. I stumbled across it at an art fair. A friend mentioned it. Something about how you happened to come across it. And God, what a beautiful discovery. I love how awesome you are. Way to go, gallery. You're super cool. Please put me on your mailing list. Here is an image of mine so you can see what I'm up to. Way to go. Love, Susie. A month later, you write back and you say something like, I was looking at your gallery online. I read an article about you. Something where you are not writing about yourself and you're telling them how cool they are and thanks again for doing a good job. And by the way, I'm including an image of a piece that I just finished. I hope you like it. Clearly, you are not asking them to do anything. The trouble that most artists have is they ask people to do something and then it doesn't happen and then they stop. You need to do this for about a year with galleries. Watch the math. After a year, you're writing to in the neighborhood of 100 galleries. The norm is that after 6 or 7 months, you get 2 or 3 emails that say, dear artist, we're putting together a group show that seems to be stimulated by some of your art. Would you be so kind as to lend us 3 pieces for a group exhibit? That's fairly normal. Out of that, 50 to 60, 70% of the time, the gallery will then say, that was pretty nice. Let's keep some work of yours around. And then things start happening. Basically, what you are doing is you're being generous. You're giving of yourself. You're saying nice things about them without asking for anything. You are educating them. You are educating them. I mean, if somebody falls in love with your art in 30 seconds and buys it and then, goes home and lives happily ever after, did they really grasp? Did they really get, would you get married to somebody after they looked at you for 30 seconds and said, yeah, I want this, let's go? I think these relationships frequently can and do take more time. So that a relationship with a gallery can take time and they're going to respond to you more slowly and it creeps in, the message, what you're communicating, the images and the compliments. If somebody likes you, they're more in the right positive mindset to like what you do. They want to have an excuse to like what you create because they like you. And, I like what John does. John's a nice guy. I'd like to see John do well. Gosh, I hope I like John's art. It'd be nice if I could do something to promote it. Whereas if John just walked in the door and I don't know John versus anybody else, yeah, it's nice, but Bill's nice and I like him a little better. He might be more fun. The art kind of has to be up to speed, but it's ultimately a lot more about the relationships. I think the art's a prerequisite. The relationship is what you can work on and develop. It's important to be nice to everybody at the gallery. The person, when you walk in, if you're dealing physically with it, who sits behind the desk, You know, most galleries only have a small handful of people who work there. And because the person may look like they don't have a lot of responsibility doesn't necessarily mean that they don't. I would certainly ask people, I mean, I only had 2.5, 3 people who worked for me. And when an artist, I would talk to an artist. If I was interested in them, I would say to the person, you know, my assistant, what did you think of them? Were they nice? Were they polite? Did they treat you well? Is this somebody we want to have a relationship with? All that matters. You know, you wouldn't want a relationship with someone who is mean to your children. You know, same kind of thing. I think it's important to have a sense of what, you know, what the gallery's about, where they're going, how you fit in. I don't think you should just do this randomly. I think you should do some homework. I think it's important that your website is ready for them to take a look at it. I don't think a website needs to be encyclopedic. I think a website is kind of like a welcome mat. It says, here's what I'm doing, here's what's going on. I hope you like it. Get in touch if you want more information. Here's some seductive images. It's not encyclopedic. All right, let's talk about how you grow this list of galleries. Start with artists you like, who you think are kind of close to your peers. If there are no artists you like who you think are your peers with galleries, find some who you think could be. All of you are available and worthy of having gallery relationships if you want them. I'm not certain a gallery relationship is for everybody per se. Identify artists that you like with galleries that show. Look at the gallery. Look at the artist that you like that is at the gallery. Look at the other artists that the gallery shows. See if there are artists that the gallery shows that you like. If you like those other artists, look them up and see where else they show. Where else they show has a really high likelihood of being appropriate for you. If your work looks like Picasso, and Picasso shows with Gallery Joe, maybe Gallery Joe would be appropriate for you. You know, there are a lot of artists who your work has some aesthetic resonance with. Your job is to locate them. You know, they shouldn't be Picasso unless you're at that close to that stage. You know, they should be people who are approximately peers or a little bit better than you. And from, you know, you look at those people, it's like growing a family tree. You know, you see where they go, and then you begin writing that gallery. To some extent, you can work it backwards. I like to think about where I would like to travel, but I would like, I've mentioned this before, to go to Tasmania. You know, so I would look at galleries in Tasmania and see if there were any there that I liked. As soon as I found one I liked, I would start looking at artists there that I liked. There must be some there because I like what the gallery's showing that has to do with their aesthetic and their art. You know, and then I would grow it from there. I would probably write the gallery and go, it is so amazing that you're in Tasmania. What a wonderful place. I'd love to come visit. What a cool gallery you have. I really like what you're doing. Hope we can be in touch. Put me on your mailing list. You know, and then genuinely growing from that kind of situation. So the way you identify new galleries is by looking at the artists and growing a family tree from the artists, you know, and you can come up with a couple of hundred artists that way and grow it and hone it. I don't think you need to get over the top about how fantastic a fit it is. If it seems like it might be a fit, that's enough reason. And if it seems like it might be a fit and you think you like the place, I think that's enough reason to correspond with them. You know, over time, I mean, every time you begin a relationship, it doesn't mean you're going to consummate the relationship. You know, beginning a relationship is just that. It's a beginning. Some people you go, sorry, not interested. Other people you go, you know, you have lunch with them, you go out to dinner once or twice, and then it fades. Other people, you know, you become good friends and things happen. You know, we want to pursue the things that are working. One thing that you'll see is galleries online that say they are not accepting submissions. My experience is to ignore that. My opinion is you are not submitting. You are not applying. You are not prostating, you're not bowing. You're being an equal, right? So it's a question of finding people that are appropriate. You can say, I'm interested in being on your mailing list. I really like you. Here's what I'm doing. I don't feel like that is submitting for acceptance into the gallery. I want to open this up for questions. I want to talk about more things in a minute, though, like how to price your art and how to change your prices. And first thing is, I think this is a total aside, but I don't know where to mention it. I think it's important to have your name and your email address. People that have email addresses like superduperartist@gmail.com, I don't think it serves them. You know, and if your name is really simple, like Joe Smith, I think that, you know, you should still find a way to work your name into it. You know, so it should be me@joesmith.com or Joe the Artist Smith, something, so that when somebody sees the email, they know it's you and not an acronym or Power Tiger. You know, I get some fascinating email names from people that sound like that, and I remember the email, but I don't know the person that's attached to it. Okay, let's open this up for questions. Somebody start raising hands, and or I'm going right now to the everybody picture. Somebody can wave their hand. All right, Mark, you can go first. Go ahead.
Oh, it's one question I've had since we began this. What happens if you have more than one gallery in a town, then both of them want your work?
Pick one.
And what I mean, and the question is, really the question is, I've got friends who are in two galleries. They're in the gallery I'm in, and they're in other galleries. And I've always been told that's kind of not a professional way to do it if it's in the same town.
Agreed. If you're going to do it, the two women should be talking to each other, and they should be upfront on, everybody should be, there should be transparency. I'm equating the two galleries to two women. If you're dating two women, they should know each other and they should be okay with the fact that it's happening.
So if the galleries are fine with it, then it doesn't create a problem for the artist.
I'm okay with it. I mean, if one gallery only deals with paper and one gallery only deals with canvas, fine. And you're doing both, there's no conflict. I think the priority is to figure out how you go about avoiding conflict. And I think it's damn hard, and therefore it typically doesn't happen. Okay?
Okay.
Are we done? Should I move on?
Yes.
All right. Other questions, people? Andy, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
All right. So you talked about how to approach a gallery. So would you find it just as appropriate to start approaching other artists?
Yeah, with what intent?
I'm sorry?
With what intent? Well, growing relationships, etc.?
Yes. Yes.
Yeah, totally. I think for an artist, for you, it is really good to have one studio visit a month, a week, you know, and I think it's really good to swap studio visits. I think it helps you focus on your art. You become, you know, the subject matter and the discussion more. You have some kind of intimacy where things are being shared. I think you can swap studio visits with another artist. I think that's a really good way to reach out and grow relationships. I think all kinds of things can come from that. I think that's a great idea.
Okay, thank you.
Totally. Others? Janice, good to see you. Go ahead.
Okay, I'm thinking about artist-run galleries. What do you think about that? Are they worth trying to get into or be a part of?
Typically not.
Okay.
They can be. I think that's a good question. I think one of the things that's important in the art world is that perceptions are frequently more important than reality. So that in terms of exhibits, in terms of doing brochures for exhibits, I think we're trying to create the appearance of an upward trajectory and that we are being kind of successful now. And geez, it looks like more success is right on the horizon. And I'm not convinced that an artist-run gallery conveys that. I think an artist-run gallery conveys, we tried and we couldn't get out of the starting block. And I think the audience gets that feeling. I don't think that's true of all artist-run galleries.
Right.
But it's a perception that affects them.
Mm. Okay.
Conversely, I think it's a good idea for artists who are early in their careers to do a number of pop-up shows, shared exhibits where they're doing something with 2 or 3 or 4 other artists, where the show maybe lasts 3 days.
Right.
It could last a week. But I mean, I've gone to these things that have been in beauty parlors and lawyers' offices and restaurants, where basically we clear everything out on Friday and hang the show and have an opening on Friday night and a party, and we have, a reset opening, we're open to the public on Saturday, and we dismantle it and take it down on Sunday, and it's back to a regular business Friday. By doing that, you learn how to collaborate, cooperate with other artists. You learn whether I want to hang all my art right in touch with each other, or do I shuffle it with yours? How high do we hang it off the floor? What do the lights do? How do we get publicity? Oh my God, this is all the stuff a gallery does. I sure appreciate them now. I think that's a decent kind of an exercise. But I think basically the idea is to maintain a notion of an upward trajectory, and I haven't seen that artist-run galleries pull that off.
Okay, cool.
Good.
Thanks.
You got it. Others? We can go with hands or somebody waving. All right, we can just go home. All right, Anne. Go ahead, Anne. Wait a minute, you're unmuted, but I don't hear you. Wait, no, stop. You're not unmuted. No. Let me do it.
All right.
Okay, go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. I wanted to address what Janice had asked, because I was a member of a women's gallery, ARC gallery in Chicago for 2 years, and remained an affiliate member just to keep, in the game with the various members. One advantage of that in the beginning is you learn how to write grants. You help to develop a real camaraderie with other artists. And it is definitely a starting point. It's not where you want to stay, but it's a good starting point. And a number of artists that are still affiliates with the gallery have other galleries now. They just want to be included in the annual exhibits and group shows because they've got some great themes going on. And this happens to be one of the few artist-run galleries, I think, that's really on the ball. So it can do some things for you. But again, it's more of a waymark than a place where you want to stay. But even if you do stay there, because for whatever reason you like the cooperative atmosphere of an artist-run gallery, it's certainly not a terrible place to end up. I mean, there are a number of people I know that have gotten a lot out of being board members there and so forth, and doing community outreach. But again, it does involve a considerable amount of labor that has nothing to do with the art making process. And once you learn those things, like grant writing, etc., it is time to move on more. Just thought I'd give my 2 cents worth.
That's not a bad point. I mean, in terms of initial steps, that is, something I hadn't thought about so much. That could be true. But even with ARC, I still, I'm not changing my opinion. I don't take it. Man,
Well, they've stayed in the game longer than.
Oh, they've been around for 100 years. For me, though, I would be more interested in looking at somebody's work at a fledgling apartment gallery or something that is barely fly-by-night, as opposed, there's a lot of galleries here and in other cities that are run by young art students or people who are getting out of college and want some exposure and start their own thing. And the gallery's goal, I suppose, is frequently to last for a year or two, and that's it. I don't know. Some of those I think are it's a question of impressions, I mean, it depends kind of on who you are and where you fit and where your people are going to find you. I suspect that Anne would find more people looking for her at ARC than I would. And I think that's why we want to have different opinions. So I think you should do what works for you more than you should do what works for me. Okay. Jeff, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
So is it appropriate if you have a relationship with a gallery, right, currently, is it appropriate to talk to them about expanding your gallery presence with the other galleries, not in their
Very.
But, okay. They should be able to help you with that.
So the norm is that if you are working with a gallery, you're getting 50% and they're getting 50%, and that seems a little bit like you're getting jacked around already, but that's the norm. Now, if they work with another gallery, if they find you a gallery somewhere else, the way it works is you show that they ship the art to that gallery for you, kind of. I mean, who pays and all the details will be resolved later on. That you have an exhibit with this other gallery. The other gallery sells art. They pay your primary gallery. Your primary gallery takes 10% and pays you the difference. So that if we're talking about a huge painting of yours is going to sell for $100. All right, it sells for $100. The gallery in Oklahoma City gets 40%. They get $40. They turn around and write a check to your gallery for $60. That gallery takes off $10, not 10%, but $10, 10% off the top, and sends you your 50%. Okay. So it is in your primary gallery's interest to get you exposure elsewhere. Also, once they get you exposure elsewhere, they've got reason to raise your prices.
Okay.
Once your prices, and we're creating greater demand. Adam Smith's Supply and Demand, Basic Economics. Jeff's work is now more scarce because it's selling in 2 places and not just 1, or 10 and not just 9. And that increases demand and scarcity and all that kind of stuff. So that is of more interest to your primary gallery. They basically get to call the shots. No, Jeff, you can't have a show in Juneau. We won't have enough work here. Okay, yeah. But it is in their interest. So yes, you should push them. And yes, you should pursue this as a team thing. The idea should be that you and they are working together on your career.
Gotcha.
Okay, your career is not you. I mean, it kind of is and it kind of isn't, right? But you and they are a team. And you both benefit when they move your art. And if you help them move it, that's good. If they help you move it, that's good.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, Kay, your hand is up, but I don't know if you have another question. You're unmuted, Kay.
Yeah, I could do with some relationship advice on where to take. So on Instagram, there's this woman that's been following me for about a year, and she's an associate director with the gallery in London. And every time I put work up, I would say literally every time, she makes a comment about how she loves it, or this is great, and or 2 hearts or something. And so this has been going on for about a year now. And I just wonder if there's any way that I could kind of move it on a bit, or kind of, I don't know. I just wonder if you've got any advice, really.
I don't understand the problem. If you knew that she lived next door to you, what would you do?
Well, yeah, I would kind of hang around and wait till she came out the door or something. Or I wouldn't literally go up to a house and knock on the door, but
Wouldn't? Even after a year?
no.
Yes, you will.
Would I?
I think it's totally appropriate. I mean, you know, both of you are too shy. It's like here we are you're like two French twins waiting to be born. Après-vous. You know, somebody's got to go first. There's love waiting to happen here. You know, and your art is the vehicle, and it's sitting there getting all this love is waiting to be poured onto your art, and you're going, no, that's nuts. You have to get in touch with this woman, and you have to say, I am so moved by your response. I would love to buy you a cup of tea and chat with you for 20 minutes.
Okay, right. I'm just really bad at all that. I'm kind of.
And then you just say to her, it's so cool that you like what I do. What is it that touches you? What do you like?
Okay.
And then you say, tell me something you like that has nothing to do with art. And then you go, oh, I hate that. Oh, that's interesting. And then you start talking. Then it's there.
Okay. Yeah, just got to get over myself a bit, haven't I?
Oh, it's going to get worse, Kay. You're going to give us a report next Monday about how it went.
Okay. Thank you.
You didn't sign up for this class so you could stay the same, did you?
No. Thanks.
Yeah, sorry. All right. Who else has got a hand up here? Margaret, you are unmuted. Go ahead.
Hi.
Hi there.
I have a question about, I have a quite difficult relationship with my main gallery, and I want to leave the gallery. I find it really difficult. I've been working with her for more than 10 years. The problem that I have is that she's not really representing me at fairs. She hasn't been selling any of my work, which is not such a problem, because on the other hand, if she's not selling a lot, she's still accepting me in the gallery, so she has a good program. But I didn't know if I should contact other galleries first and find out if I can find another one before I talk to her, or I talk to her about the problems that I have, and I don't know. I don't know how to go about it. I find it really difficult.
I'm not clear on whether you want to leave the gallery no matter what, or you want to leave the gallery if they don't step up.
Yeah, I think I want to leave the gallery no matter what, because, well, the relationship has grown. It's so difficult now. I don't even want to go into the gallery. I have a hard time going into the gallery, so I think that's not a basis for
No, you're right.
Yeah.
I think it's, I don't know. My sense is that you should say you're not happy with the relationship. I think you need to be in touch, and you say, you know, there's some things I feel like we need to talk about. Can I commit? Let's make an appointment to talk.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think you need to say that you're not happy with how the relationship is going, and you're seriously considering leaving the gallery, and you don't even have somewhere else to go. You're just dissatisfied with the relationship. If the gallery says, oh, I mean, sometimes the gallery will say, whoa, we've been paying more attention to other people. You know, your time is coming up soon, which basically means, oh, we forgot. And maybe they're going to say, we don't want to lose you. We're going to do something. I think you need to decide whether you want to give them the chance to get it right.
Okay.
And then when they don't get it right, you can tell them to go screw themselves goodbye, or you can say, whoa, way to go. Thank you. Let's see if we can do more.
Okay, so if I have this talk and she says, okay, that's fine with me, it's all right, just go.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, I am working with a couple of other galleries, but that's not that serious. I think it would be good to have another one already on my hand, or not?
Yes, but if the gallery is next door to the gallery you're trying to get rid of, and you decide and they change their attitude and you decide you like them, I want to avoid that problem.
Okay.
Okay. Now, the world is a pretty big place. You could have a relationship with a gallery in Stuttgart, and you could have a relationship with a gallery in Sydney.
Yeah.
If you're thinking about leaving the gallery in Stuttgart, Sydney doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
If you're thinking about leaving the gallery in Stuttgart, the gallery in Munich might care.
Mm-hmm.
You know, a gallery, right? Or if you had a relationship. So there, you know, I don't know the proximity, how close these galleries are to one another, but that could make the issue not relevant.
Okay. Okay, great.
Okay. Let me take a minute and then we'll go back to more questions. Let me talk about pricing your art. Those of you who have prices on your art, you don't need to listen. I think the way you price there's two factors that determine the price of your art. I'm not going to say this makes sense. I'm going to say it's the way it is. The two factors that influence the price of your art are how big it is and your resume. That's all. There's another half factor. How expensive was it to make it? If you did a canvas and you covered it with paint, that's basic expense and you're not entitled to compensation for the expense. If you made it out of 5 pounds of gold, yeah, then you are entitled. And that happens differently. But I'll explain that really briefly, but this isn't so relevant, but those who need it can hear it. If something is made out of gold or bronze or something that's more expensive than paint and canvas and you're getting compensation for it, or you are framing your art and it's not the art, it's the added value. Let's say the piece is $12,000 and the gold or the frame is $2,000. The person who paid for the gold or the frame gets reimbursed off the top. You paid $2,000 for framing. The piece sold for $12,000. You get reimbursed $2,000, and then we split the $10,000 50-50. If the gallery paid for the framing on that piece, you're not deducting all the framing for all the show on one piece, so you could be. That's a different argument, but we're not going there right now. If the piece is $12,000 and the frame is $2,000 and the gallery paid for the frame, they get reimbursed and then the proceeds get split, the $10,000 gets 50-50. So basically the person who paid for the frame gets $5,000 plus their $2,000 back, like that, okay? It's not like you split it 50-50 off the $12,000 and the person who paid for it's getting screwed. I've seen that happen to artists. That's not okay. All right, so you price your art with two factors, how big it is and your resume. The way to determine how much to price your art is to look at another artist who has similarly sized work with a similar resume. They went to college, they've had 3 mediocre one-person shows, 10 group shows, 3 juried exhibits. No, their mom bought a piece, one collection. That person's work is selling for $4,000. Your work, you have a similar resume, is $4,000. To you, feel about right, too much, or too little? Look at 2 or 3 people. If 3 of them are, of similar resume, similar size and similar value, you should probably be there. If 2 of them are at 4,000 and 1 of them is at 20,000, something's probably skewed. I hope you understand what I've said. You're looking at other people who have exposure. If they have exposure with a gallery, If their work is on exhibit at a gallery and you don't have a gallery, your work should not be as much as theirs. Now, let us not make the mistake of saying, when you get a gallery, your artwork does not double in price. If they're taking 50%, it's not doubling in price. Let's say you had your art and you had it priced at $1,000. That is retail. You sell it. You give the artist a percentage and you give the salesperson a percentage. Since you are both the artist and the salesperson, you're collecting the whole thing. When you go to a gallery, they're the salesperson. All right? So if you were getting $1,000 when you sold it yourself, and now a gallery sells it for you, and you're taking a 50% commission, all of a sudden you're getting $500. And you need to be okay with that and say thank you. Now, once a gallery takes your art, you can raise your price a little bit, because now that you're with a gallery, your resume is better, isn't it? So maybe your price can go up 15% because your resume has gone up. It doesn't double because you deserve more. You don't deserve more. Retail is retail. You're entitled to your percentage as the creator. Somebody else is selling it, they're entitled to a percentage. If you're the salesperson, you're entitled to that percentage. Okay, we now have 3 things we can have questions about, at least. Gallery relationships, how to price your art, and what to do with what pricing once you have a gallery. I don't see any hands raised. Is anybody waving their hand? Susan, go ahead.
Yes. I'm listening when you talk about the galleries take on other artists that have been referred from other artists.
Yep.
How that relates to building relationships with other professional artists who are, and you said before, that are better than you or that are at a different level than you. And I really struggle with this because I'm very open. People call me for, they ask me questions. I give answers all the time. I consider myself a connector. I'm always trying to help, move people forward. And I have a difficult time in my head, because I think that because in the art world, I'm good at sales and marketing. And there's lots of artists that I know that are much better at their artwork than me. And so I'm good at helping out those people with marketing. But the people that are great artists and really good at marketing, they are very tight with, they hold close to their chest where they're going. And I have a difficult time building a relationship with those people.
Where are you?
On the island, Victoria.
Interesting.
And I'm a kind person. I develop relationships. That's sort of who I have been in life. And so,
all I can say is, my experiences as an artist as a whole, and I don't know that they're different from anybody, are really generous. And not all people are going to fit the drill. They're not all going to fit the mold. And unfortunately, I'm guessing you're right. There are some people that are good artists and not as generous as we'd like them to be. I said that really benevolently.
Well, I guess, but it's about, if you think about dating and about building relationships.
Yep.
And then, okay, how do I, other than what you've said already, how do I?
I don't know that you do anything differently than what I've said already. I can dig, but I don't know that I can find. And I think that some people may just not be available, and that's how it goes.
Right. Okay.
I don't believe that we are all things for all people. I mean, I wouldn't mind having 100 people in the course, but I'd rather have 30 that I, identify with than 70 that are yelling at me to do something else. Right? Mm-hmm. So I think we need to grow, we can't be all things to all people. I think we need to find the relationships and grow them. My sense is that you can have a genuine relationship with an artist, and then you can say, hey, are you happy with your gallery? I think they're really awesome. I would love to work with them. You feel like saying something for me? I'd love that.
Right.
You know, and some people say my relationship's too fragile. I can't do that. And you have to say, I hear you. I respect that. And some people are going to say, I can't do that. And some people go, God, what a great idea. I would love to show with you. You know, and I think some of this comes from aesthetics is a possible way of connecting. I mean, you know, some of these artists who could be your friends who are reluctant to go to bat for you, you know, there are other artists with whom you have, you know, you could talk about a group exhibit or, you know, I like your work. Wouldn't it be fun to see our work together in a venue? And then, hey, you have a gallery. You want to talk to them? I've seen that happen.
Oh, that's a good idea.
Frequently.
Yeah, I could do that. That's a great idea, actually. Thank you.
So, you know, basically all of these things are organic, and it's a question of finding what organic things are available to you. And you and you and you and you are all artists, and I hope, by definition, creative people. I think this is a really fabulous opportunity to be creative. You know, hopefully you guys aren't looking around going, oh, what a cool painting so-and-so did. Let me see if I can replicate it. You know, maybe you see something that stimulates you and you say, that's interesting. Let me see where I can go with that. You know, I think it's the same thing. Try and deal with expansive, growing people. Be creative. Look for new solutions. Jeff, go ahead.
So I have a question.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
I have a question on if can the galleries, so galleries want to, I'm trying to grow my gallery presence. So the gallery can, how many pieces, what kind of how much work do you need to have on hand to grow a gallery, to grow with other galleries?
5.
5. And what can they see through if you're like have a day job and you're doing art and a day job? I mean, I know that the galleries want to be committed to you and they want to know that you're in it for the long haul because they don't want to invest in you and then the next minute you're doing your day job full time and arts.
I don't think a lot of people, hold on a second. I don't think a lot of people care about the day job. I mean, like, you know, I mean, if the gallery does well, you know, you're going to be able to leave your day job.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, and when I had a gallery, I mean, I know an awful lot of really Dawood Bey, with whom, you know, we've listened to his webinar, and Dawood Bey is a full-time college professor. That's a day job. And he just got a MacArthur grant. Wow. You know, so I don't think his galleries are saying, don't take the grant or don't have, you know, stop teaching. They're saying, nice art.
Yeah.
You know, if you can give them enough art to do what you want to do, I don't think this other shit matters. Or it feeds into, you know, your creativity, your talent, and your presentation. The reason I said 5 when encountering a new gallery, I think an awful lot of artists feel like they have to have a whole exhibit ready so that the gallery can say, yeah, I like that exhibit. How about we do a show in 3 months? My sense is that galleries want to feel like they're part of the discussion. So that if you have a number of pieces that are done, and they can say, Jeff, these are really cool. We would love to show some of these. Could you do some smaller ones? Could you do some with more red? Could you do some that have, like, I need some of the red in the upper right-hand corner, Jeff. I really do. You know, and if you go, sorry, guys, the show's done. You know, then they're going to go, but if you go, yeah, I'm going to process that. I got what you're saying. I'm going to really think about that and move it. Then you go do what the fuck you want.
Right. Yeah.
You know, but galleries want to feel like they're participating, they're contributing, they're part of the discussion. They don't want you to listen too much because, hey, you're an artist and you're the creative one. You know, yeah, I want you to listen, but no, I don't want you to listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
I want you to have the integrity to go, great idea, not doing it. Okay, yeah. But if you have too much work, it eliminates the gallery from the participating in the discussion to an extent, right? So you don't have to have that much work done. You have to have enough to say, hey, you haven't, you know, like when you're in the middle of doing things, you're more excited than you are once you've finished it. It's like, once
Yeah.
you finish it, I got to find a way to get this shit out of here so I can move on to the next thing. When you're in the middle of it, it's, oh, this is exciting. I can't wait to do the next one. Let me show these to somebody. Show them
Yeah.
to somebody.
Yeah.
Okay?
Okay.
Cool. Clyde, you're up. But you're muted. No, you're not. Go ahead.
There we go. Okay. I don't know if you recall about 2 or 3 weeks ago when I mentioned something about the Todd Chilton video that I was watching, and he seemed to influence. And you suggested, hey, send him an email. I got brave. I sent him an email.
Yeah.
And, a response didn't come until today. This morning, he sent me just a little one-liner saying, hey, great work, and yes, I see a connection. So in talking about, you emphasize, you say, hey, the artists are open. Well, at least the ones of the webinars are. This is my first experience with it, so go ahead and
Well, two
contact
things. One is my experience is that is true, and two is the majority of the people that I work with fulfill that, because I want to surround myself with people like that. So most of the artists are like that I've done webinars with.
They're busy. It took them 2 weeks to reply to me, but hey, a little one-liner, but it made my day,
That's really cool. I'm surprised. 2 weeks, man. I don't even remember what happened to it. I wasn't born 2 weeks ago. Cool. Thank you. Holly, you are unmuted. Go ahead. Where did you go? Did you mute yourself? You're gone. Wait. Now you're unmuted. Talk.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a question about commissions and pricing, right? So
Yes.
most my paintings are faces, and I get a lot of people approaching me to ask if I can paint, their own portraits. I'm a little bit unwilling to do that because I don't really know how to charge for it, and so what would you advise?
Not a problem.
Commission and cost, right?
Okay, so the price of a commission should be the same price as a regular work of art of that same size. So if your piece is 10,000 whatevers and it's 3 meters by 3 meters, and you're doing a commission that size, the price would be the same. Frequently with a commission, you get a percentage. A commission is frequently paid for in 2, 3, or 4 parts. 1 part before you begin, 1 part, like a third before you begin, a third when you're halfway done, hey, I'm halfway done, and a third when it's finished. Frequently, then the problem happens, like, do they have to accept the commission? So some people say, I'm going to do 3 pieces or 4 pieces. You must buy one. One of them is yours. You can buy more than one, but one you must buy. But it's delicate, because if you're painting a picture of somebody and you make them look like a chimpanzee when they think they look like a gazelle, you've created a problem. And a lot of people think they're gazelles when they're really chimpanzees. So, I don't know. I mean, it's hard because you have to turn it around and give the client what they want instead of doing what you want.
What happened? Why am I asking this? I've done 2 commissions so far this year, and the first one, this guy just came up to me and says, "I want you to paint 3 men who look like they're at war in a bush, and they could be fighting other people, or they could be attacking an animal. You just don't know what's going on, right?" And I asked him what size he wanted. He says, maybe a little bit bigger than what you usually do. So I told him, okay, but I'll double the price because he's bought a painting from me before. So he said, no problem. And I did it. And I was very afraid. When I finished it, I sat with it, I think maybe about 2 weeks. Then I told him, okay, I'm done. Because I wasn't confident that this is what he wanted, right? And I was just waiting for him to come and say, no, I'm not going to take it. So what happened was I delivered it, and he was there staring at it and just going like, oh my God, this is it, for about 15 minutes, you know. He's like, yes, this is exactly what I wanted. And I was really excited about that. Okay. And so he paid for it, and he didn't complain about it. Now, the second one was a little bit different because this is someone else again who wanted a face that was faceless. Okay.
Yep.
Which is not what I do. Right. And he wanted it in a fine art way. I moved from fine art into really jagged art right now. So I did it, and he liked it. He didn't really love it, but he liked it, right? And so the pricing for this one was actually what I usually charge for the other ones, because it says, then why should it be more expensive when it's just the same size as that? And I agree, but I was a little bit lost. So that's the reason I'm asking, what should I charge for this? Right.
I think you should charge the same as you would for your own art.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I think there's some problem making art that doesn't feel like you. You know, picture yourself having a retrospective museum exhibit in 15 years, and these two pieces are in the show.
Yeah.
Is that good or not good?
Not good.
So when you do a commission, it's a problem. You know, the money is good, but the art has to be true, honest to you. Okay?
Yeah.
Cool. Sarah, all right, we're going from Saudi Arabia to New Zealand. Go ahead, Sarah.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hey, how important is Instagram, Facebook activity for galleries to blogging?
Thank you. I wanted to say something because I think it was Kay was talking about Instagram. My sense is that Instagram works better for visual artists than Facebook, and Instagram is where all you guys should be. I can do Instagram for about 2 or 3 weeks before I get a course going and to try and market shit and stuff like that, and then I don't like it anymore, and I can't do it. I mean, I think, Sarah, if you're going to do these things, you got to do them. And if you don't like them and you're not going to do it, you're not going to do it. I mean, basically, I think you got to find the vehicle, a format, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter. I even know some artists are using LinkedIn. I wouldn't use LinkedIn, but some artists are doing it successfully. I think you should be engaged with social media. I think you should find one you can tolerate, and then you do that one. And if you can't do it, you can't do it. But I think it's worth an effort.
Because I tend to, I put some things up, and then 2-3 months might go by, and I don't do a thing.
You and me both.
Oh, okay. And is that okay to be sporadic?
No.
It's not okay.
No, you got to do it like several times a week or every day or twice a day. And there's all kinds of theories, but basically you have to have some frequency or people forget. I mean, our job as artists is to remind people we exist. They don't need our art. But, you know, if we show it to them a few times, you know, without being too unctuous, without overdoing it, they start liking it and relating it, and they start getting spiritually connected, and they need it. So the idea, we've got to expose it. We've got to put our art out into the world so people can see it, so somebody can do something about it. If you leave it in your studio with it turned facing the wall, it's not going to do much work for you.
That's where most of mine is.
Yeah.
Facing the wall. Hey, the other question was, with Facebook, website, Instagram, I've always been a bit funny about putting new work online until it's been exhibited. But do you think you just put it on?
What are you worried about?
Like I don't know. I've sort of had this thing like if you're going to apply for an award or if you're going to have an exhibition. I don't really want
No, don't worry about it. Get it out there.
Get it out there.
Yeah, in fact, maybe putting things up in progress is not even, I mean, if you're going to show it, I don't see it, you can show it in 3 or 4 phases of being created.
Okay. I need to up my game.
Take a look at what other artists are doing. Follow some artists you like. Some of them are doing famous Cindy Sherman has a nice Instagram page that's getting a lot of attention. There's some significant artists that are doing things, and you can see what they're doing and how people respond, and then you can go, oh, maybe I'll do it half as much. Okay. Or whatever, but
Okay. Yeah.
Cool.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm going to wave your hands if you have a question, folks. All right, Joe. Good evening. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a situation that maybe you can help me read between the lines. I've been developing this relationship with a gallery pretty much in the format you suggested, by just getting to know the people. And I genuinely liked the gallery to begin with. I wasn't trying to sell myself. But over a few months, I got responses, back from the gallerist, and they particularly liked a series of mine. And then they asked how much was a particular piece. And I told them, and they said, and I wasn't sure how to take this. They said, well, I'm not sure we can work with that price. And so I said, well, can we talk about it? Let's talk about it. And I didn't hear any response back, and I wasn't sure if they meant the price was too low or too high. I assumed it was too low because, I assumed it was too high because otherwise they might have said, well, we would have to up the price if it was too low. So I'm kind of left in this no man's land about this situation.
I think we need to do this offline. I think you need to send me an email, and you need to send me a link to see some of your work, and you need to tell me how much the pieces are, and you need to tell me which gallery it is, so then I can look at your work and your resume and see if I think your price. You've got a track record of selling work, right?
Right.
So what might I think of the price is irrelevant. You have a track record. This gallery, can't you figure out from who they're showing whether the people's prices, or you can compare your resume to theirs?
Yeah, I thought I had a pretty good take on it. Once I walked into the gallery, I was familiar with a lot of the artists.
Where's the gallery?
It's in Scottsdale, but it's not downtown.
Okay.
With all the galleries, it's a whole different approach and a whole different look for the gallery, and it's relatively high-end stuff.
I don't know the answer. I'm having difficulty. If you send me the name of the gallery, or you want to tell me it, I'll look at your resume and theirs and see if I can come up with anything. But
yeah, I would be glad to write you an email.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay, thanks.
I'll do that. Cool. All right, let me go back to the gallery. Where's my mouse? Gallery view. Anybody else want to wave a hand? Paul, good evening. Go ahead. And then I see Sarah will come back. Go ahead, Paul.
Hi. You mentioned the abomination of Giclée in one of the interviews.
I did.
And I have some artists that I know who have done great work with prints, and they're the way, that the way that you've talked about with a couple of the other people about it. But reproductions, since I'm doing paintings, the way when I talk to the print artists, they say, I can sell these at a price so people can buy them, and I keep I have there's more than one, that sort of thing. What's the deal about reproduction?
Okay. This is a touchy question, and I'm wondering if my opinion is changing. So in my mind, a work of art is something that is intended to be a work of art and is something that an artist creates. If, and it is meant to be that thing, some nebulous notion. If once it's done, you go, oh, I like that. I think I'm going to make a photograph it and take pictures of it. In my mind, you've created a poster. You haven't created art. You've created something that is about art. You didn't intend it to exist in that manner. You intended it to exist as something else. It's a reproduction. A reproduction is not art. It's a copy. And it lacks originality. Okay, so this is where it gets really tricky. If you make a painting and you take a photograph of it and you print it on your printer and you sign it and you sell the reproduction, I don't think that has a whole lot of integrity. On the other hand, if you create something on your computer with the intent of it looking exactly like that thing that I didn't think was art, but you create it raw without reproducing something, without reproducing something, but instead producing something from scratch that you print on your printer that looks identical to that other thing, I think you've made art. Which is why this is a touchy issue. Because you can end up with two identical looking items, one of which is art, generated from the same tool, machine printer, one of which is art, one of which is not art.
I mean, I've done things that were, I took a drawing and worked with it and blew it up beyond way before I could use it as a just a little drawing, blown up, and it produced it. And they said, oh, well, that's not a...
That's art. If the original thing was also art, then I'm not so sure. But if the first thing is a tool to become the later product, the last thing is art.
Well, then I took down a show a few weeks ago, and I got kind of balled up about which pieces that I had, because the reproductions that I have are basically clones. And so I got balled up on which pieces were the originals, and it's printed on canvas, and I got balled up. I wasn't sure on a few of them. I had to really look at look at it to see which was the painting and which was the reproduction. But I don't want to make an argument for you. I want to find out what I mean, I've heard it real hard from a gallery about what's no, that's not a print. I understand, but I'm not making prints. I'm making reproductions. But even in that, I want to get your opinion and what the general opinion.
Sounds like my opinion similar to the galleries, and the general rule is what I'm saying, but I'm thinking it's less general than it used to be, but it's still general. Okay?
Okay. What's the difference between that and a photo? That's printed and all that kind of stuff in multiples.
If it's a photograph and you print, I mean, I don't know. It could still be a reproduction or original photograph. I think it's a parallel discussion. Also, as an exercise, Clifford Still, who was an amazing, amazing artist, Clifford with a Y, C-L-Y-F-F-O-R-D, Clifford Still, was an abstract painter who was super cranky. And he believed that no human was capable of really appreciating his artistic brilliance. And if they liked a painting of his and wanted to buy it, he wouldn't sell it to them. He would go back to his studio and he would make a duplicate, slightly smaller, so that he could keep the original one with all the imbued spirit, and he could sell the copy without the imbued spirit because the collector wasn't worthy of it in the first place. Similar issue, right? I pour my soul into this canvas, I take a picture of it, and I sell the picture. Did the soul go with it or not?
kind of sounds like hell to me to do it.
You know, Jerry Saltz, we did an interview with, and Jerry Saltz is an art critic who talks about how he doesn't have any money, and there are these famous $1 million paintings he likes, so he'll ask an artist to create a copy of a famous painting. And he will have the artist put their name on the back of it, and he's totally upfront about the fact that this is a copy made by an artist friend of mine of a famous painting I can't afford. I have a problem with that. A lot of people don't. You got to decide for yourself. Donald Trump has a
I don't know if I can decide for myself. It's not myself that I'm trying to sell it to.
I hear you. Well, Donald Trump has a Renoir that he claims is original, that the Art Institute of Chicago says, the original's here, dude. I think, you know, I don't know. I think if you err on the side of originality, you're safe.
And how are you changing? You said you're changing.
Well, you know, we did a webinar with Dick Solomon, who's the president of Pace Prints. And his opinion is that anything an artist does is art, and it's okay. If an artist likes it, I'm okay with it. I'm of the opinion he's not thinking about it enough. But it wouldn't surprise me more people are moving that way. I'm going to move on. Paul, thank you. That was a good one. Let's see. Hold on one sec. I need to go to here. And, well, Dorothy, I see your thing. Hold on a second. You want to just ask your question? Go ahead. Dorothy, you're unmuted.
Yeah, my question goes, you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, my question goes to installation. I'm a beginner artist, and so I mainly do installations. So if I start approaching a gallery, I think it's a bit tricky. I don't really know how to do it. I have installation on my blog.
It's not about your art. It's about you. It's about a relationship between two humans. You don't even need to discuss your art. I mean, it's okay to show it, but you're looking for the things where you have a common interest. And if they are interested in things that you're interested in, people will find a way to make it work.
Right. So it's more about choosing the appropriate gallery.
No,
and then
it's about discovering the appropriate gallery.
Yeah.
You know, it's not like you can choose the perfect husband before you meet him or her.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah,
so, and if you grow a relationship with a gallery and that, you know, you're talking about installation, they might say, you know, we have this river here and you've never worked with a river, but we could do something with this river. And both of you are going, whoa, I've never thought of that. What can we do? If you go in with a mindset that says, this is what I do, you must fit what I do, it's probably not going to happen. If you both go in and go, I like what you do, you like what I do, what common ground, where can we go? Things can happen. Yeah. Okay?
Okay.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Let's see. I don't see any hands. Is anybody waving hands? I got too many things open here. Sarah, go ahead.
Just about the contacting galleries. If you keep emailing once a month with follow-up emails, but you don't get any reply, I guess likening it to a relationship, if I have someone coming on to me too strong, I tend to back off.
I don't think you want to come on too strong. Come on warm, but not too strong.
But if you're emailing a gallery, say once a month, and there's no response from them for a month or two, do you keep pursuing that?
Yes, for a year.
Wow. Okay.
And then after a year, if you don't hear anything, you can stop.
Okay.
Anybody else? Jeff, go ahead. No, you muted yourself. You were unmuted. Start over. Go ahead now. Don't touch.
Uh,
Go.
If you go, yeah, I didn't really talk about online galleries, but is that something we'll discuss later, or?
No. Let's talk about it now. When you say online galleries, you mean galleries that solely exist online and don't have a brick and mortar facility at all?
Yes.
I don't think those are so much about relationships, unfortunately, most of them. I think it's about convenience, and I think most of them are pretty shallow, and I don't think most of them are very fulfilling, and I think it's sort of like, you know, the Apple Store or the Google Play Store. It's sort of like, pretty picture, I like it, okay. So it's probably okay, but I can't imagine that once we get into real money, there's a lot being transacted. You know, I think when you get to real money, there's gotta be relationships going on. So to some extent, like Anne was talking about co-op galleries or artist-run galleries, maybe at initial stages and early on, this would be okay. I don't know enough about your resume. You're probably at the point where it's appropriate to stop thinking about that. But maybe not quite yet. I'm not clear, okay?
Okay.
And I don't think the wherewithal is for enough depth with a gallery that only is online. I think they need to be, that's just too easy and convenient and doesn't constitute enough of depth, meaning in the relationship.
Yeah.
Cool, thank you. Anyone else? I'm looking for waving hands at this point. Anne, go ahead.
Well, I wanted to sort of share an experience that I had with a gallery a long time ago, which initially was good, but it made me a little bit gun shy toward galleries since then. I had a relationship with a gallery owner when she was still a rep. She was repping a number of artists. And then she got this exciting idea to get a space in that kind of wet area called, you know, that's west of the Loop. And she did. She had it for over a year, put a lot of money into it, but didn't sign a 2-year lease. So, you know, in spite of the fact that she did do a good job of selling for several of us, and I must admit, a number of the clients that she sold work to of mine were people I brought to her. They were not people that I cultivated necessarily, and they rather resented the fact that I had prices that were a little bit higher and that I didn't get, you know, the full, and that I had to give up 50%. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. For months, she told several of us that we still had to pay her a percentage of work that we sold from our studio. And being an honest person, I let her know about every sale and I gave her a percentage. It wasn't 50% from our studio, but it was 20%. And, you know, this went on for several months, and then finally, and she kept saying that she was going to get a new wonderful space, and it never happened. Finally, I met with her at her home in the suburbs. I nicely took back my slides and all, and it didn't stop the relationship because she did manage to sell a few works of mine after that. However, I was approached by a friend of mine who was an architect that said, we're looking for some big new work in the atrium here. I did a presentation, and ultimately I got a commission for $40,000 without having to give a percent to anyone. And I truly would have resented having to give this woman a percentage if she did not, number one, did nothing to work for it, nothing to do to work for it except lend her name. And number two, didn't finally get back into a wonderful space. She never did get a space after that, and she's now a massage therapist in another state. That was what made me a bit gun shy for years about dealing with galleries. Now I'm ready.
You know, we gotta realize that no more than are humans perfect, we shouldn't assume that people who run galleries are close to being perfect. A lot of them don't have their shit together at all. I believe that a gallery deserves consideration when they've added value to your work. So if your association with them facilitated sales from your studio or increased the prices, I think they deserve consideration. You know, sometimes that could be a percentage. Sometimes that could be thank you. Sometimes it could be a nice letter. Sometimes it could be dinner. It really depends on the situation. And I think it's kind of up to the artist. I don't think it's necessary. You know, it also depends on whether the work had been shown in the gallery and then you sold it. I mean, there's a bunch of considerations like that. I did
not mind giving her a percentage. What I did mind was that she didn't seem to work terribly hard for it.
Exactly. But maybe she created the mindset where the buyer said, this work is worth this money because it's shown by such and such a gallery. In which case she's added something, even if she didn't do anything. When I did I had a $2.5 million budget to do all the art for McCormick Place West. And I ended up commissioning all the artists. And I couldn't figure out what to do with the galleries. Because, you know, I had artists submit and some artists I chose. And ultimately my conclusion was, I think the galleries deserve 0 to 10%. I told this to the artist. I'm going to copy your gallery on all of my correspondence with you. You make peace with your gallery. My relationship is with you. But I want your gallery, you know, but I have to know, your gallery must know what's going on. And to my knowledge, every artist, you know, gave their gallery 10%. That had a gallery, not all the artists did. One gallery, unbelievable, insisted on 50% of the commission and a painting. Because they said the artist was going to work on the commission and not do work for the gallery, and therefore they deserved extra money for the money they wouldn't get. I think that gallery is disreputable. I'm not opposed to naming them. They're not in business any longer, and they don't do massage. All right. I didn't name them, though. Sarah, go ahead.
That was your integrity.
Yes, on some days. Sarah, I don't know if you're muted or not. Let me find you and unmute you. Go ahead. You're unmuted.
My hand didn't come down from last time.
Oh, okay. Got it. Lower hand, mute. Anybody else? We could be done. We've gone on a ways. Mark, you're it, and then we're wrapping her up. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I just want to make one comment to add to another scenario that's in my gallery. This did not happen to me, but happened to another fellow that was in there. That he basically sold a painting outside the gallery, but the painting was at the gallery. So we had a long discussion about this, and his way of solving it was to give the gallery owner $2,000, and he made $8,000 because it was a $10,000 painting. Rather than the 50-50, it was basically the artist's sale.
Who sold the painting?
The artist did.
Okay.
It was from one of his many collectors, saw the painting at the gallery, but basically gave the gallery a couple $1,000 for a $10,000 purchase. So it's another scenario that does happen.
I think the artist cheated the gallery.
Really? Everyone felt good about the transaction. Both of them did. I did hear from both of them.
Interesting, because in my book, if the client goes to the gallery and sees the art there, that's the end of the story. That's
even if it's an old-time collector of that person's work.
Yes.
From before the gallery days. Okay.
Yep.
Interesting.
And if I were that gallery, I'd be prone to terminating the relationship with the artist.
Okay.
I think you need to honor those relationships. I think it's important. I think it's delicate. I mean, I had an artist, you know, who I was working with, and a collector called him up who, you know, and he sold the work to the collector independently and told me how cool it was and how happy he was. And I said, dude, that's a mistake.
Yeah, right.
And I'm not interested in the money, but if you do that again, I'm not, you know, I'm busting my ass for you. And as a result of that, you know, if something happens that I don't know about, we need to be upfront, you know? I mean, if you're my, you know, if you're my dad or you're my mom or you're my wife, you know, let's have this up front in the first place. And let's talk about it and make sure we're okay. In my book, the artist and the gallery are a team working together to benefit the artist's career. I don't think the gallery is working for the artist by themselves, and I don't think the artist is working without a gallery. I think it's a relationship in my book, and you need to be open and honest about it. Anybody else? Hey, I think it's really cool that they're all happy, though. Surprises me. Anybody else? I don't want to wrap it up on a negative note. I want to wrap it up on a positive one. Paul, go ahead.
One thread through all the interviews that you had was they all said, be professional. And then when you talked to Kasara, you asked him about pet peeves. And those, if you had a list of like 4 things, or what does it mean to be professional in your relationship with the gallery? I mean, the ones that they said were like, you know, have good photos, have an inventory. I don't know, but what would your list be?
Be honest. Be generous. Be responsible. I guess be exemplary. You know, be the partner behave in the manner you'd like to be treated. Be supportive. Support the gallery's program and agenda. Try and show up to openings. Just so you can say, nice going gallery, nice going artist. Yeah, that stuff.
Great, thank you.
All right, you guys, we've gone on. This is like the new world record. Are we done? Yay. All right, all y'all. I will see you in 1 week. Stay beautiful, okay? I'm going to unmute everybody. Hold on. There's got to be a way. Where's that? God, I've got this set up differently. So unmute all. You are all unmuted.
Thank you,
Love
Paul.
you. Take care, y'all. See you in a week. All right, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Good night.
Thank you, Paul.
Thank you. Bye.